And now for the soft, dulcet tones of our special boy, Michael Lopez.
Zero Eight Studios is, just a multi-purpose entertainment studio. We do everything from books, comics to video games. Not only that, we sponsor and we encourage, aspiring creatives to do the same. So anybody who writes, who draws, who has ambitions to create a game, they pitch their ideas, and we provide not just resources, but, training if it's needed, editorial services. We partner with a lot of other, businesses and freelancers that, proudly run along with that economic alternative that we're trying to promote. So, a lot of the times from a writing perspective, you have people that go towards an agent or some sort of publicist and, just they get a raw deal. It's not really the best and they shy away from it. They try to take it up on their own and then they end up coming short. So we're here to fill the gaps, if you will. So, I've met too many people that just, have those dreams and then just they get shattered because they get their first or second or third, their fourth no, and they just give up. So, I'm just trying to be a stepping stone.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Comicsology Club. It's a podcast where I, Snoop Lynch, and my co-host, Higgins-Sturm.
Hey, that's me.
He's right there. Every month we do it together, but not just together this time. We've got, as Higgins said, one special boy back in the hot seat.
Hola.
Michael Lopez is here.
Yeah. Our third repeat guest.
He's
Third.
He's a repeat guest, just Higgins.
Our third one. Our third one?
I'm going to let you think, because it looks like you're going through a lot right now mentally.
Yeah, I think it's 3.
Yeah.
I think he's the third one that we repeated.
But he's number one in our hearts because he sponsors this podcast with his business.
And we're
008
greedy sons of
Studios.
bitches.
Exactly. All proudly part of 008 Studios, Michael's business. Michael, you're here for a very special episode. Anyone who listens to this, who has ever listened to this, knows this is a long time coming. We're going to talk about your book that you wrote with your hands, presumably. Unless you... Typewriter?
Keypad?
Keypad's pretty good.
Got
Oh,
it.
you had that one keyboard, though, that looks like a typewriter.
Yeah.
So you probably did some note-taking on that.
Probably. It sounded official. It sounded really, really old school.
Very good. This book looks very official.
God, I hope it's actually good on the inside. You guys are going to tell me about it, right?
Yeah. Specifically, we're going to tell you about The Eternal Crown, Dawning of the Red Sun.
Man, you nailed it this time. You got it last time and you still have it.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
the subtext is facing away from him, and even in everything, guys.
yeah, I love that for you in case
Yeah.
you needed to say it.
That's pretty good. I got mine right here, though, too.
Yes. Written by Michael Lopez. Art by, can you say the artist's name?
Ashley Turella.
Turella. Okay.
Turella.
Yeah.
Excellent. I've got words to say about her and her work later. All good if she's listening. If she's not, then it's still pretty good.
I'm sure she will be.
Excellent.
And if she's definitely not, it's horrible.
Before we go into the book itself, though, tell us, obviously you've done this book that we'll talk about today, and you've got another one in the works, but like kind of what's floating around the think tank these days? What do you got on the burner right now?
So, not only working on the sequel to this book, but I got 2 other books that have already been outlined. The schedule is kind of, it's not anything set in stone right now, but the sequel to this one's going to come out first. I got a sci-fi that I'm planning that's probably going to run tandem with a visual novel. So the idea is to like have the QR code to download the game inside the book, which is going to be interesting.
Yes, yeah.
And then I have a third book that comes after that. And the idea is to kind of just work on them in parallel so they can knock them out back to back. But I'm also working with a small development group called Team Gravity. Shout out to Team Gravity if you're listening. But they're working on a video game, and I'm doing a little bit of writing for them as well. So should be really interesting. It's the first, sponsored event on 008 Studios, so I'm proudly, supporting and advertising that. So
Yeah.
but yeah, super exciting stuff. I think right now though, that's really about it. I have, like I said, I partner with a lot of freelancers, but most of them are illustrators and editors, so they're just kind of standing by for everything that kind of flows down.
Excellent. And yeah, I didn't know about the video game thing. That's excellent, because I know that was kind of your original plan for your business anyway, was
Yeah.
to go into video game development. So that's really exciting to hear about. I'm excited to eventually see some comics come out of there as well.
Oh yeah, some pictures, even
Yeah.
more pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of going into that, like this is the first we read short stories for that one Halloween episode, and like Higgins is better at reading books without pictures than I am. Like I suck at it,
I'm a
but
big fan. Big
he's
fan.
big fan. I will say though, like it's just a word of praise from me, which means absolutely nothing to you probably, but this book, The Eternal Crown, Dawning of the Red Sun, Higgins. You see it? It's right there.
No,
Oh yeah.
again.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is. Still,
Yeah.
still right there.
I think the biggest thing I'm going to give you praise for is sponsoring this podcast, but also
Readability.
readability. Yes, the pacing of this book is very well done, and that's very interesting considering the amount of characters that you've juggled here in a first book. Now, I haven't read a real book. I don't even know when. Like, if it doesn't have pictures for the majority, I can't tell you when I read it, but it's just not my thing. You know, I read very slow.
I'm gonna tell you right now, Snoop. I stopped reading another book so I could read this book in the middle, and now I'm back to reading the other book. I know.
How's he do it?
I kind of want to read another book right now, so I can read in between reading the other book,
My
just in case I get bored with the first book. I also watch TV and movies, but we'll get to that later.
I'm doing a full-time job.
But we'll get to that later.
How's he
Yeah,
do it?
when do you work?
He doesn't. He's doing this all at his job. And he only feels confident enough to say that because he knows no one listens to it. That would rat him out.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, the pacing of the story, very well done for a lot of characters. And knowing you personally, I guess this is the first time I've ever reviewed a book that I knew the person who wrote the book. But one thing that I noticed kind of pretty early on when reading about these characters, which I guess let's give a synopsis for the book. We didn't do a good job of that last time. I'm not going to say it's Michael's fault for not writing a synopsis in the book. I feel like I shouldn't have to say something like that.
There's a
But
synopsis for the second book.
there is a synopsis for the second book, yes. But Michael, since you're here, give us your best synopses for your book.
There's a lot going on in it, but the main story is that you have three kingdoms that are, essentially at war. One that's trying to keep the peace but has its own agenda. One that's very war oriented, and the other one that just enjoys its peace. They're very religion oriented, and the story takes place. So the main character, Myra, who is the cleric to be, who is supposed to be ascending pretty soon, is basically inheriting, just a whole bunch of troubles. You have the peacekeepers who aren't really trustworthy, and then you have, this foreign nation that was, an ancient enemy of theirs that's just amping up their eagerness for war. They're very bloodthirsty at the moment, and so, her father, who is the current cleric, is trying to set up a quote unquote tournament. It's really more of a showing for who he's already selected, but a tournament to select a retainer for her. Somebody that can stand by her side. After they're gone, and essentially the tournament just goes to crap. There's interference from one of the nations. I'm not going to say which yet. But there's interference from one of the nations. A few people die, and at the very end, everything just falls on her lap, and she just has to deal with it. And that's one of the major conflicts that she has. While she's part of a very prestigious family, she always has doubt about whether she can measure up to, previous, clerics and whatnot. So it's a bit of about her uprising and the troubles that follow it.
That's a pretty good synopsis. For the most part, like I take this as like a first book, like it normally is. It's introducing our main cast of characters to us. It's telling us why why our heartstrings should be tugged if something happened to them, or hate them if we're supposed to hate them.
Yeah, like if one kicks a puppy,
Yeah,
he's the bad guy.
and like
I'm not saying that's what happens in this.
I don't want to say anything, but like at least 3 puppies get kicked, guys. I don't know what happened to Michael, but
Something broke.
Yeah.
Talking a bit about these characters, though, what was this is your first book, not just for you, but also your business. So why this story? Like, kind of what made you, because I know you had a couple different ideas in the works when I originally talked to you way back when. So what made you go, okay, this is the debut?
I'm not really sure why the story. I think it's more, just this was the farthest one along, that one I could pick up and run with. Most of the ideas that I've had for years. It's just, I haven't really had the time to sit down and polish them enough to the point where I'm comfortable enough to, put it out to the world. And I picked the one that was furthest along. I polished it. I wrote it, and before I knew it, I had, 80,000 words, I think is what it ended up being.
It's more words than I've ever
Yeah.
written in my entire life.
Or said.
So
Or said. And that's saying something.
So then, afterwards, I just kind of, took that leap of faith, sent it out to, an editor or two editors for this one, took their advice into consideration, rewrote a few bits, fixed it up, and then I sat on it for a few months. I'm not going to lie. I was just kind of like, it's done. I'm waiting on illustrations, but, like I could really, really work with what I have.
It's like a chicken sitting on her egg. He just had to let it cook a little bit,
Yeah,
so
so-
the baby came out right.
Eventually,
And baby did it come out right.
eventually,
The book,
Oh my goodness!
not the egg. Metaphors, am I right?
Are you okay?
Yeah, I've only had I haven't even finished a whole drink yet, guys. This is just coming off the dome.
Let's talk about whatever it is is happening to you in a second.
No, but I sat for it for a while, and eventually the last bit of the illustrations came in. I said, you know what, let's do it. And then I just clicked the button, and it went everywhere.
Yeah.
It's physically available, Books A Million. It's available on my site and all the other major platforms, Amazon, whatever the equivalent is of iTunes, iBooks, or whatever.
They I think it's just books now. They
Yeah.
separated everything. Yeah.
It's in the Google store. It's everywhere.
I just bought 2 copies at Barnes and Noble just the other night, so
Nice.
other people can
Wait,
read
so
it.
that's what I was about. Is it available? So is it Books A Million or Barnes and Noble? Both?
Barnes and Noble. I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah.
Barnes and Noble, not Books A Million.
Don't worry,
Barnes
I
and
got
Noble.
I got us in here.
Yeah. Thank
Nice.
you.
Thank goodness I bought 2
Barnes and
more
Noble
copies.
does the print on demand, which I think is a fabulous deal for everybody that's starting on.
Oh, nice.
So, that way you don't have to order 100 copies and just sit on them until you finally sell them. You just, tell people to go in Barnes and Nobles and they print it for you per order.
Just imagine if you had 100 unsold copies. We could build a fort here.
Oh yeah, that would be cool.
We could have built his table instead of bringing this very large one that he had to awkwardly sit behind.
Hold on, my microphone's falling down again.
I don't know what's going on with that thing. It
I
is
don't-
an
I can't
absolute
twist-
Mess.
I
It's
can't
weird.
twist
It
it
only
any
happens to
harder.
that one. I'll have to tighten that bolt one
all
day.
right.
Yeah, we'll make it work. We'll make it work. So you can get it from any and all those places, and of course your own site,
Mhm.
which was a great place to buy it.
Yeah.
I
and
think that's
it-
where I bought it.
And then you can see all the other nice things you have to offer.
Yeah, one of the things I forgot to mention about everything else that's going on, I'm also working with an artist that's done canvas paintings.
Oh,
So her work is there as well on my site if anyone's interested. Then we got some of the partners that I'm doing shirts and buttons and a whole bunch of other merchandise for the studio, but that's supporting them, not so much myself. They're making it. I don't really have a hand in it. It's just me, broadcasting. It's more like
A billboard, but for your body, kind of.
oh my goodness.
that explains all the tattoos he walked in with you.
No, but it's more like just trying to get their name out there as well. So
And of course, I'll leave a link to your website in the podcast description below, assuming that anyone ever reads what Higgins writes, and then the links that I leave. You'd
Yeah.
like to imagine at least one person.
At
right?
least one, because I put my heart and soul into it in
Yeah.
the 30 seconds that I think of it.
In a way, it's your own eternal crown dawning of the red sun.
Yeah.
there's always at least one. That's the advice that I always got.
Good. All right, Higgins. Clearly, you're feeling yourself in all different kinds of ways over there.
Yeah, do you want to talk about the drink?
I would love for you to talk about the.
Can I
drink.
ask him one question before we get to the drink? It's a small one.
Like,
Go
how
for it.
small? How small?
Is it Craig or Craig? 'Cause
Craig.
I was reading it as Craig because it had a K in front of it, and I just felt like it sounded more exotic
You
if I
know-
said it Craig.
Writing, reading, it's all subjective. I've wrote it as Craig, but if you want Craig and put a little bit of
Oh,
exotic
I got
in
you,
it,
Craig.
yeah.
Craig or Craig. Tomatoes, tomatoes,
Yeah,
potatoes,
yeah, exactly.
potatoes, all
Yeah.
that jazz.
And those are one of the different people's factions, whatever you.
That's
wanna
the
call
war.
them.
That's the warring country.
They're like the Vikings, I guess I would kind of
Yeah,
equate them to.
they're kind of a Viking nation, and I haven't really gotten to
They're from the north?
describing. Yeah, I haven't really gotten to describing their culture yet. But they're very Viking-ish like.
Yeah.
Then you have the Dragon's Dominion, who's all kind of like an empire, if you will. I guess the closest thing you can get to is Roman, except their armor is nowhere near the same.
Yeah.
And then you have Ezra, who is the clergy faction, the one that Myra belongs to,
hmm
They know
and they're
magic.
kind of like a feudal type deal.
I like the dynamic between the people of Ezra, So the souls is our main focus on them, and then the Dragon's Dominion, the Empire, because it's this kind of reluctant servitude, it seems like, to that empire, just because it's what's been happening, and they're still obviously much more powerful in terms of numbers and resources, but they're clearly also just like, well, what if we did our own little thing over here? Like they have I say Myra, whatever.
Myra. Yeah.
So Myra's uncle is the head of
The
this-
Elkiori.
the Elkiori, which is this like secret group of soldiers, like the elites, and no one outside of, I guess, Ezra is supposed to know about them, which is obviously a big red flag to the Empire if they were to ever find out. So I like the kind of, I hate politics, but I like kind of the sneaking around and the bickering and the back and forth of just like, well, I kind of hate you, but I can't just outright say it, so I'm gonna be doing my own thing over here. And they know that they're doing it anyway, but they're just like, this is fine. It fits our means to an end, and it's no big deal. So I think all of that's really well done. Like I said, with your writing, one thing I noticed, having known you and heard you say words and show your personality, which I wouldn't let anyone do on this podcast, but for you, it's okay. But one thing I noticed is that I don't see any of you in these characters really, like in a sense that I don't get kind of taken out of the immersion of the story. So I think you did a really good job kind of, and it's a lot of characters to juggle. I mean, you've got Myra's, I guess, your main character, but then you also have the twins, Koro and Kira.
Koro and
Mhm.
Kira.
And-
Koro and Kira.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so those are like your three main focus, and they're all so distinct in their personalities. I mean, Kira doesn't even speak. She's mute, so she signs. And I think that's just it's interesting to read. It's fun. There's also like a lot of serious undertones in everything that's happening. And then, of course, you have the really interesting element of this, which is our main three characters are kids, and they're coming up in this world that they're slowly finding more and more stuff out about it. Like the twins, more so, they've been kind of sheltered their whole lives from their father, who loves them, but also kept them out of a lot of stuff that he probably should have gotten them ready for.
Yeah.
No, man, he was thinking they're never gonna be a part of it, and he was wrong. What are you gonna do? Parents, right? It's hard.
Yeah.
They're just people at the end of the
Yeah.
day, Higgins. Even
they're
your
just people.
dad.
Yeah, even my dad.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
So before we go down this rabbit hole,
Yeah, I'm gonna do the drink now. I didn't know that Craig was gonna lead us down such a long thing. I was just trying to get clarification. But
yeah,
Do you think that there's a guy named Craig that's part of the Craig?
I'm not going to answer that question.
It's
do
definitely.
you think he spells it with a C?
He'd have to, right?
Yeah.
It'd be too confusing otherwise.
Yeah, I'm Craig from Craig.
Yeah.
Or I'm Craig from Craig. Sorry. I get them mixed up.
What else did you mix up over there?
I made a drink. It's called the Puesta de Sol. And I just picked it because it had the word soul in it, and the soul is the main people and like the orange slice that we have in here, because we use garnishes now, folks. It kind of looks like a sun, if you think about it. And
If you really look at it,
I
yeah.
just thought about
If you drink a lot of it and then you really look at it, it looks a lot more like a sun the more you
Yeah.
drink.
I mean, it's
yeah.
just like an orange circle, and that's what a sun is. So it's a good drink. I used Don Julio Reposada tequila. That's right, folks. Don Julio Reposada tequila, and some ground turmeric.
Wait, what was it?
It was actually a Don Julio Reposada tequila. Thank goodness for our sponsorship. Thank
Yeah.
you guys.
It's good to have two sponsors in one episode, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, so it's that, and then turmeric, some ground turmeric, some orange juice, 3 parts of that to the 1.5 parts of the tequila, a dash of orange blossom water. I used orange curacao as a substitute because it said I could on the internet. And then some crushed red peppercorns.
Mm-hmm.
And you just shake it vigorously, and then you have a drink, and then you put an orange slice in there if you're fancy like us.
Just don't ever shake like that in front of children. I
Yeah.
hate to have to call someone.
I think if you do it above your head, it's fine.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, you were saying that this is the first drink you've done with like spices.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it ended up
Nailing
bravo.
it.
Kudos.
Nailing it.
Yeah.
It's pretty
I'm gonna-
good. I mean, I haven't had heartburn like this since we did that Bloody Mary episode, but it's definitely, it's a better kind of heartburn.
Is your guys' tongue like doing a weird thing right now? Like mine's a little
Mine's
like a
doing
little numb.
cartwheels.
Mine's a little bit of a numbing sensation to it.
I feel that. Maybe you can finally roll your R's now.
Whoa.
I'm
there
gonna
we
put a
go.
little more orange juice and tequila in this.
Okay.
Because
You mean you, right?
yeah, and me inside this glass. I wasn't gonna put more spices because I feel like there's plenty of those bad boys still in this cup.
Okay, got you.
Would anyone else like a top off?
Sure.
Yeah,
I'll
why
have
not?
one.
Well, so we'll get it going after that though. You've got Obi-Wan to watch, Higgins.
We are back from our refill break.
All right,
No,
we're back. Hopefully, it's as good as the first time.
I'm sure it
Did
is.
you make it?
I made it.
Well then, sure.
It's at least a little bit fine. Then it'll get the job done.
Higgins, your bartending skills have improved tenfold since we started this podcast. Don't sell yourself short.
I'll never sell myself short.
Good. Because you're only like 5'7", so there's not much shorter you can go.
5'6", actually. Nailed it.
Okay.
I doubt that I'm taller than you.
5'7"
so
with
I
shoes, so-
double check that.
Do you wear you wear some boots though? It'd probably give you a little bit of inches
Actually,
on
these are just high tops.
it. Oh,
Yeah.
If,
well, they're very nice.
Thank you.
If and when our person that does our Wikipedia gets on there, now he knows where to put my height at.
But never your weight,
Yeah, never my weight.
because you're a lady.
A lady
You don't
never
tell
tells.
me. Excellent. Higgins, I've been talking up a store and asking Michael questions. Is there anything you wanted to ask him about the book or characters or anything else of the like?
Yeah. I'm gonna talk out about stuff, and then hopefully a question comes to my brain when I'm out there thinking about it.
No, your usual technique. Very good.
So I'm a big fan of the anime, and one of my favorite kinds of anime involves a tournament arc. And so when I saw them leading up to a tournament, I was pretty pumped. I do have a question now. How hard is it to write fighting scenes? Because like there's a good number of them in there, and they all felt like they flowed pretty well. I was never confused as to what our characters were doing in them.
You know, believe it or not, that was actually one of the hardest things to like. That's one of my favorite things to do, but it was
Yeah.
one of the hardest because when it went through editing the first time, you know, developmental and we had to fill in the plot holes, if you will. One of the critiques that I got was that there was one fight scene in particular, which I think was the second Kira's fight scene in the tournament.
She
Okay,
fights the
yeah, yeah.
mountain at one point.
Yeah.
Like the,
Oh, that was
the
our first
Roxy,
one.
Yeah.
That was the first
very
one.
first
So
fight.
the very first one in the tournament was supposedly was the one of the better ones, and then there was a fight in the forest that happened that was, you know, kind of the same.
Oh yeah,
But
I'll leave
every-
that a secret then.
But all the other ones that I got were they told me, you know, they were flat, right?
Okay.
I was just like, okay, well then what do you mean? And they were like, oh well, you know, it was just a sequence of events. There was no thought process. There was no explanation for anything. So I had to take the two, which by the way came just flowed. Like I had honestly, it came to mind and I just put it on paper. And I didn't really know the ins and outs until after the editing, but I had to take those two and then just kind of mirror the I guess the reflections, if you will,
Like what the person's thinking about
exactly,
while they're
like
fighting.
why they're doing X, Y, and Z and all that stuff, and then kind of slap it onto the other ones, and then eventually, like, it went through a second phase of developmental, and it was like, oh, this is way better. So, to answer the question, it was difficult just because it was the first time that I was doing it. But I
Yeah.
think now that I have it, it should be.
You have
smooth
the
sailing.
idea how
Yeah.
to make it right. That's what I always liked about books and their fighting scenes is like you can make a movie or TV show all day and you're just gonna see them out there swinging swords, but like 9 times out of 10 you see a fight scene in a book, they're gonna be thinking about their next move and like thinking about like, oh god dang, that was a hard hit. How am I supposed to make it through this fight? You just get like so much more like emotion and character out of a fight scene than you do
Yeah.
in other media.
Yeah.
Especially
And I
in
felt
this-
it in this one.
Yeah, well, especially in this setting, I think that's why I enjoy tournament arcs, and I watch an anime as well, Higgins. But I think why I enjoy them as much as I do is because the sole purpose of a tournament arc in anime, as
Did
with
you do
this,
that on
is-
purpose? You son of a bitch. Sole purpose?
Yeah, the sole purpose of a tournament arc in anime is for character development, and it works the same way here. And you have a lot of kind of fun dynamics and bouts with this. The biggest one for me is the first fight with Kira, the girl, and then this kind of big hulking mountain guy,
Roxy.
I did enjoy that.
From Kata or something like that?
From Cade. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cade.
So
There you go.
that's a great matchup because one, that should scare her, but obviously it doesn't because that's her personality. Nothing intimidates her. She's just that confident in her abilities. And then you get to see her back that up and just trounce this guy. And you have similar moments with her brother after that. So I think like same thing when I said with the pacing. It's just a good back and forth and a good way to develop these characters quickly because you do have so many that you need to juggle. Was that difficult for you to kind of okay, I'm gonna do this character, and then I'm gonna switch over to this character and do things with these characters? Like, what made you kind of? That's a challenge, I imagine, for you.
Yeah, one of the challenging things there is avoiding what's called it could be considered character hopping. And that's when, you have a character and that person is thinking, and then you hop to another character, and then that thought seems like it could come from either one. And it falls in other, instances as well. But it was a challenge to hop from character to character and avoid that issue. So I think I nailed it to where I could identify what thought belonged to what character. One of the books that I read that is notorious for it, but does it in a very well is Dune. So I tried to kind of just do a similar job, and I think I got it. There may be a few instances here and there, but I mean there's risks that I can live with.
I mean, as far as the reading wise and readability of all that, I mean, I never didn't know who was saying what, and if I ever got confused, I would like go back one step and then be like, okay, I see where I like got a little crossed up and was able to figure out who was saying what.
Yeah.
I agree. I don't think it was ever, and that's a lot of times what hurts me when reading just a novel is hopping between characters and like, did this person say this, or this doesn't sound like this person? Oh, it's because it was actually this person and I missed it. Same thing as Higgins said. I didn't have a problem with it overall, and if I did slip up, it was easy to just like trace back a sentence or two and be like, oh, okay, it's this is what's happening, and very well done on that. I'd say.
Similar to that is like another thing I like what books do and what you did at least towards the end there. You'll see a scene play out from one perspective, and it's like, okay, that's this family, and they're watching it from up here in the stands or somewhere in the forest or something like that. And then you'll get like, all right, you'll get through that 5-minute scene, and then you're back at the front of the 5-minute scene from the perspective of the people in a different location, and you see how they're pass immediately, like eventually cross when they do cross at the end of that. I don't know if that makes sense or not.
Kind of like how, like you were saying, that it would start with say like
the Soul family.
Yeah, but then they would
jump to the Kira and Korra story, and then somehow
they intersect.
They converge.
Yeah, and it's not, you're not confused at any point of like, wait, is this where we catch back up, or are we still in the past? Like, you don't have that issue, I don't think, at all with these sequences happening, especially towards the end. Because towards the end is where it really starts to kind of like, you amp up kind of that like bouncing back and forth between different plot lines because they're all in the same area at this point. And so something that would normally be confusing in the hands of like a weaker writer, you handled pretty well, I think. We haven't really talked about her a lot, but I think for me, one thing that did help a lot with certain scenes and kind of set the tone was your art, which I think was a really good thing to throw in here. You use it sparingly, but because of that, each page has impact. And we talked about our last episode that Higgins and I did, we talked about Ghost World, and one complaint I had about that book was the art. Like, I don't really remember anything from the art. Obviously with this it's easier for me because there's less pictures, but they're so vivid in my mind. Can you tell us more about kind of how you met with Ashley and kind of how you guys approached this style? Because this wasn't this, before I saw the first picture, this wasn't the look I thought you were going to go for, and I'm glad it wasn't because I did enjoy how it turned out. So,
yeah. Well, one, thank you. I'm sure she, enjoys the praise as well. But essentially, what we did is we were on Discord, and it's really what I use. And I told her, hey, this is what I have in mind. This is how the page reads. This is the scene that I'm imagining, And I kind of gave her kind of like free reins, autonomous, just draw what you can. And then if I have an issue with something, I'll let you know, and then you can change it. So she did a ton of line art. And we went through the process of saying, yay, nay, this is why nay, this is why yay. And then like every now and then she'd come back and say, well, if we do it this way, you run the risk of, running into this issue. And then like I had to kind of be like, all right, well, I see what you're doing. Keep going, and then we'll see where it goes, right? And a lot of the pictures that she ended up like delivering the final products, it was beyond what I had initially imagined. So kudos to her. I think she's a tremendous artist, and this is just a start for her.
Yeah, she's only like what, 14, 15?
We're 15 now. But when we were working on this initially, 14, and this is the beginning of her portfolio. I think it's a tremendous job. And that's really kind of the spirit of the studio, you know, kind of bringing up the aspiring creators instead of just, you know, throwing it to the professionals again. And nothing wrong with professionals. They're professionals for a reason, but you know, we got to bring up the next generation. But you know, awesome job. I'm super happy with the way it turned out. She's actually working again on the art for the sequel and one of the other projects that I have. So
Excellent. Yeah.
you know, she's building up.
And so Snoop, how would you describe the style of these pictures that you're seeing? Because I mean, I have an idea of what I think they might be, but
Sounds
I'd
like you
to
want to
think-
go ahead and say that.
No, I
idea.
want you to say it first. 'Cause I wanted to ask a
You
question.
guys want to play rock paper scissors?
You want me
over
to
it?
like stammer? Now that you've like hit me with this question, you want me to come up with an answer that sounds insightful and like I thought about it.
Yeah, I mean, I can just say mine like 2-word, like kind of idea of what I think they are.
Okay, well, you say your 2-word thing, and then I'll like give you some kind of sign that like it was a similar thing I was gonna say. Or
Computer watercolors.
that was not what I was gonna
Does
say.
that make
but
sense though? Because it's kind of like a loose brushstrokey kind of vibe to it.
I agree. I didn't think of it like that, but I guess for me, like thinking of it now, the tone I kind of got from it changed the tone of the book a lot of ways for me in the action and more the serious moments. I kind of thought it reminded me of say like an Avatar, The Last Airbender kind of vibe, and kind of like it's just the fluidness of the action scenes that were drawn, and it does kind of have like this cartoonish nature to it, but that's what I thought. Like when I think of that kind of style, I did think anime, but like not quite anime at the same time. So I thought Avatar: The Last Airbender. You know, it's very the characters in that show, like the models and everything, are very like they've got this elasticity to them,
And they all got their own look. Like I was never confused being like, okay, which characters am I looking at in this art thing? They all very much are their own characters.
Yeah.
And I think that also has to do with the placement of these drawings, because a lot of times, like I'd have a question of you're describing like a city or a person, and I'm like, I wonder what this person's supposed to look like. Turn the page right there. I'm like, oh, excellent. This is what I need.
That's fair, because like I have like a thing in my brain that just like doesn't let me think of any character other than like I may be able to know that you're white and you have the color hair that he told me, but beyond that, after I've read your initial description, you're just white guy with blue hair. Sorry. I don't know what exactly you look like in the middle, but you're white guy with blue hair, and you're my main character now, white guy with blue hair.
Just be clear, you know that the main character is a girl with red hair, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
but like that's because I have a picture.
I just want to make sure we were on the same page.
Well, that's just that's because I got a picture in
Oh.
front of me. I read her description and I was like, okay, white girl with red hair, and then I was like, turn the next page and there she was, white girl with red hair, but also purple like violet eyes. The shape of her face. Like I was never at a loss for what I needed to know, visualizing the scenes, kind of. Even without the pictures, I was able to see them a little bit easier.
Well, thank you.
What's Koro though? Do you know from like Hunter x Hunter? What's his name? The Shocky boy. He kind of reminds me.
Killua?
Koro kind of reminds me of that kind of vibe.
I guess we haven't really asked him, like, what kind of influences did you have going into creating this world and these characters?
Okay, so I can't go into all the influences, but
No, you can. We got time. We'll wait.
well, no, I'm not going to. Go into all
okay.
the
Well, that's
influences.
different. That's different. I just want to make sure you knew that you could if you wanted to. That's all.
So Koro and Kira, believe it or not, were actually the first characters that I came up with, and like I said, they've been existing for years. And they actually, like, when I first started writing, they had their own. Like I was planning on doing 2 separate stories. One for each. And I eventually just said, it'd be really cool if I just put them together.
Made them twins.
Exactly. And that opened up the world for a ton of symbolism and, a whole bunch of stuff that, just kind of fell into my lap afterwards. But
Like all those dreams that we saw that I'm not going to describe now, so the people have to read the book.
yeah, those. But Myra, I don't know what it is. I've always had kind of like a soft spot for like a heroine, if you will.
I did notice a lot of strong female leads and
Yeah,
and
like
roles in this.
I don't know what it is. Like I like movies like Tomb Raider and
What's her name? Lady Brienne from
Game of Thrones.
Game
Yeah,
of
Lady
Thrones.
Brienne from Game of Thrones. It's funny. I watched like the animated Disney Hercules from like way in the 90s, right? And I just thought, man, switch it up a little bit. And nothing wrong with the way they did Hercules. Hercules, being a mythical story. But it's just I just have a soft spot for female leads. And then not all of my stories have them, but I've figured that with this being the debut, it would be a good choice since that's something that I've had in my mind for a while now.
And hey, man, I don't think you're gonna end up on like the subreddit men writing women, so you're probably fine.
I hope not.
I mean, I didn't hear anything about like the rolling mountains and the curves of her body or anything like that. So I think you're safe.
I tried to stay away from that and just focus on more like the leadership roles and whatnot.
Yeah.
So it's just I don't know. I hope I did a good job with it. But Myra was always kind of the name was new, but the character itself was always something that I thought about. Koro and Kira, same. The only newer influences, one of the antagonists, two of the antagonists, Kai and Jan, who are the mains.
Oh yeah.
Jan was kind of a name that I got from one of my old sailor buddies. And he was, I imagine, an aspiring writer, kind of fell into the same category where he just kind of didn't do anything with it. So I just said, can I take it? He's like, yeah, sure, why not? So I made Jan kind of in the image that he described. And then Kai kind of like the secondary, kind of the Jan to be, if you will.
Yeah, kind of his like most trusted lieutenant.
Yeah, and like if something were to happen to the Emperor, he would be the second in command type deal. But I tried to make Myra kind of like the light of the world, hope, single hope, kind of like the typical hero.
Kind of
thing.
like the sun.
Yeah.
Some might
Thank you.
say.
Yeah. And then Kai,
It just
the
kinda
exact
came to me.
opposite. Kai is supposed to represent everything that she's not.
Yeah, he's
So-
the shadow that
That's
blocks
why
out
he's
the sun.
shadows.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's why he's shadow.
Yeah. See, we're clicking.
Metaphors. Now we're back.
Yeah. So I mean,
It's my favorite part of the podcast where Higgins like realizes something while we're talking about it. Like,
yeah.
my God, like the book and the thing.
Yeah, so a lot of the characters draw, have existed, but some of them draw, outside influences from, other people. The kingdoms themselves, I kind of did the same thing. One's supposed to be really light, one's supposed to be really dark, and then the peacekeepers. And the peacekeepers are supposed to seem very normal, but they're not. They have their own hidden agenda, and I might have gone a little dark with them, but the point is that you have, like you said, one that's reluctantly in servitude to the other, and I can talk about that because it's actually part of the prologue. Essentially, what happens is that these two kingdoms, Ezra and Craig, are at war. Craig is demolishing it, and they each represent a god.
Oh yeah.
Right. So you have one god that usurped the main god and took control, and then you have the other god who's trying to take control from that god. So that initial war is supposed to be the dark side winning, if you will, and a group of people that broke away from both of those nations created their own faction called the Dragon's Dominion.
With no gods.
With no gods. They just do not believe in following these deities, because all that following these deities have led to is blood and death.
Yeah. Well, also too, it seems like they kind of have, at least with the current emperor, he has this hubris that's just like, no, I'm the real god here.
Exactly.
I'm the one who
So-
matters. Yeah.
So, they have this mentality where they're the ones that ended the war. They're the ones that beat both sides back. They're the ones that keep the peace, and it's just them. They're the ones that did it. So they have this idea where, we're going to be peacekeepers for now. They're not telling, they have their own agenda, but they're going to be peacekeepers for now. And over time, they're just going to make it to where, sure, you can believe in your deities, but all the praise should come to the people that actually keep you alive, which is us.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then it's just this book, while it's a good introductory to the world that I've created and kind of like, just kind of the tempo, keep how it started and how it ended in mind, because everything is a mirror in this series, right? So you may see not this particular scale, but you may see the same domino effects on a grander scale, if you will. So,
Yeah. Oh, I
I don't-
see.
yeah.
I'll never remember that by the time I read the second book.
That's
well,
fine.
not
Just
if you-
listen to this again.
Not if you
Oh,
keep drinking
my,
the way
you're
you're
right.
doing.
It's only my second drink. It's fine.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Besides, like that peppercorn probably burns away most of the alcohol.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is really numbing my tongue.
Mm.
I had something. I was gonna ask, how did you like writing an evil character? Because honestly, like Lord Kai, kind of sent some shivers down my spine every now and again.
That's Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah,
That's
he's
probably
a very creepy dude.
yeah. That's the greatest compliment, for a character so far. But that was probably the most fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like just him sitting in a bar talking to a guy. I was like, I would hate to be this guy right now talking to this man.
He probably has my personal favorite introduction to the characters in this book, and just I love seeing him show up in the following chapters just because, and then this is meant as a compliment, in a lot of ways he feels like a character from a completely different story just because we don't really get like a whole lot about him right now. Like we understand kind of what makes him tick and what he's after, but he has powers that no one else seems to have. He can do things that no one else can do, and nothing's really a challenge for him. So when he shows up that first time, I got a lot of like, oh, this is like the scene in Lord of the Rings where Aragorn's in the corner or whatever, and he's having a pint, and then it just all goes to shit, and you're like, oh wait, no, this guy's bad news.
Yeah.
And I don't know what he's gonna do next or what he's even capable of doing.
And he's got a shadow dude with him
And he has a shadow dude with him, and that's pretty tight.
named Ikor. That's what I called it, at least.
Yeah, Ikor, yeah. If you look up the name, and a lot of the names, not all of them, but a lot of names have, meaning.
I
Ikor is
know-
supposed to be kind of like what runs through a god's veins.
Yeah, like a black, the
Oh.
black gelatinous kind of. No, so not gelatinous.
Like Jello,
Something like that.
black Jello.
Yeah, black Jello, but
Mhm.
like more
mean like-
viscous.
Ethereal type.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna run around the table and then we'll hit a review up, maybe. I'm on one thing, if you're cool with that. If
Yeah.
that sounds all right to you. If that
Okay.
sounds like a good plan
Thank-
for us.
I'm not gonna lie, you're asking me a lot of questions, which is giving me anxiety. So I'm gonna let you do what you want to do.
I'm just gonna ask you all three of us one question. Who's your favorite character and why?
Who's my
And-
favorite character and why?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, me first too. Gosh. What's
Yeah, I
with
like
you guys
putting you
like
on-
pressuring me today?
I like putting you on the spot.
I don't know. I guess if I had to pick one, I'd say Kira. But honestly, I think I just enjoy the twins as a dynamic the most. Like just to see the interactions between them. Like I said, Kira's interesting to me because one, her being mute seems like it'd be a challenge for you to write, and for me to read and understand, or it'd be kind of annoying, but it's not. And I think a lot of your kind of just going around your dialogue and how these characters speak too. This is a fantasy book, but some people go too far when they write fantasy characters and their dialogue and everything. It's just like these days I don't want to have to learn a different like dialect to understand what this person's saying, and there's no issue with that here. And I thought there might be an issue with having a mute character communicate, and it's just a lot of like, oh, this person doesn't understand. Only this person understands her. But she's very just kind of, she's playful but deadly and innocent and fierce at the same time. Like, I think she has the most just interesting character traits given her description and disability, essentially. But it doesn't slow her down. And yeah, so I think that would probably be my favorite character. Plus, she's got a bow and she's real good with it. Like at one point, she just shoots a guy like through some shoulders a bunch of times. I'm here for it.
Nice.
I am gonna say Kira, and it's funny because I texted Michael like after I finished like the first like I think it was like the second chapter, and I was like, I really like Kira, and he's like, man, a lot of people really like Kira,
Got her number?
and then like it's funny because I was like, normally like you read your characters, you like get your initial impressions, and like maybe that changes along the way, but like she steadily stayed my like favorite one to read throughout. She was very fun loving, and it's like she has like almost like an Avatar like main character kind of feel where she's poppy and upbeat and like outgoing even though she is signing, but you can tell there's like a really big punch behind her that we don't really see all that often, but when we do see it, you're like, God, she can really do some damage.
Well, I think what's interesting about her in like the tournament arc, especially, is she has probably the most distinct fighting style because everyone's using swords or big hammers and magic, and she's just a girl with a bow, and it's almost like this relentless fury of attacks, and it overwhelms a lot of people that she's fighting, and so yeah, I think that's what makes her interesting in that whole little chapter, a couple chapters at least. But yeah, just the dynamic between her and her brother. Because her brother is obviously, he's got like that older brother mentality of like, I want to look after my sister. But at the same time, it's like he knows I don't really need to look after her because she's probably better than me. So but not to say that he isn't great in his own right. because he has to go toe to toe with Myra. Who Myra's a great character too. We haven't really talked about her a ton, but I think she has a lot to kind of see still and watch her grow because she has the most responsibility put on her shoulders. And what I like about that is I've seen that done in books before, and you don't fall into the same, I guess, like traps or tropes that some people do when they write that kind of story. Is she's not arrogant. She's very well aware of her abilities, but she's also, she knows she has a lot to live up to. And while she's nervous, there's a part of her that's ready to do it. Like she steps up when she needs to. And the back and forth between her parents, her dad being the current cleric, those are all really good interactions. And I like to see them talk about the political side of stuff because, one, he's stepping down, so it's time for her to step up. But also, she's bringing in new perspectives and ideas that might actually make a good difference in their area. Ezra, whatever that is, that continent. What is it?
Yeah, continent,
Okay,
kingdom, nation,
Peninsula.
Kingdom, okay. But yeah, like she's bringing this new outlook, which obviously scares a lot of people because it's like, oh, this isn't how we do things. But the political climate is like stagnant at this point. They're just going to summits and it's just like, we're just doing this so like people don't show up at our doorstep and try to murder us. But they know inevitably it will probably come to that.
Yeah.
And so she has to come in with all of that in mind and do something about it to save her people. And it's one of those characters you're like, yeah, she can own up to this. She can rise to the occasion. So,
Yeah.
good character as well.
I appreciate that.
What was your favorite character? I don't want to mince words or anything, but I
my
did.
favorite character.
I think his favorite is still Kira, but
Yeah.
My favorite character is the Eternal Crown Dawning of the Red Sun. Is that not clear?
So before I get into mine, and it's not so much my favorite character, but my favorite to write.
Yeah.
I'm not going to spoil anything for anybody listening, but how did you feel about Kira's twist at the end?
Honestly, like I didn't even want to broach the subject, but man, emotions were felt. I was like,
Stakes were high.
you dirty son of a gun, don't you do what I think you're gonna do.
Yeah, how dare you?
How dare you? And like that could be anything, but like I was just sitting there like for a good 5-page stretch, I was just like on the edge of my seat reading, and I was like, how's he gonna turn this one around?
Yeah.
He's not going to do what I think he's going to do, is it?
Man, I bet you that's like a pretty good selling point for people that would want to read it, because they're like, man, 5 pages, and like, man, they're at the end, guys. You're gonna have to read the whole thing to get to those 5 pages I'm talking about, which means you'll have to buy the book at barnesandnoble.com or on ebooks at all the other sites we listed before.
Have you set up a stand with just a few copies at your local Books A Million?
It has
Just tell people, be like,
lemonade next to it too.
Yeah.
For 50 cents. Sorry, 75 cents. It's the economy. I'm sorry.
tried to order Mexican food today. It's like $17 for a burrito. I'm sorry. There's just screw my country.
All right, so mine. So my favorite character to write does not actually have a lot of airtime, but I thoroughly enjoyed Ikor. It's one of those things where like Kai's great, and he's very dark. He's Lord Kai, Dragon's Dominion, second in command, right?
Yeah. Second in my heart.
But Ikor is supposed to be that dark essence that essentially corrupted him.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I just found it fun to write those instances and still have some sort of a comedic twist between something that is not human and then somebody that is really dark character but still has a shred of human decency, or at least honor, in terms of his empire.
Yeah.
He's not going to kill everybody.
Yeah. So then you have one thing that's saying kill everything, and then Kai, as dark as he may be, as being the main antagonist essentially, still saying, well, why?
He only wants to kill everyone sometimes, is what he's trying to tell you.
So I enjoyed writing him, and then Ashley actually enjoys Ikor too. I think it's a tie for her between Kira and Ikor, but she enjoys Ikor because of the potential for some of that comedic tension. It's like you find comedy in the least expectant place. Like you expect Ikor and Kai to be all gloom and doom, and then somehow, I don't know if it's just me, I got a smile out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'm just twisted or
It's right after he wrote about the third time someone kicked a puppy, I guess.
No, so I mean that's my favorite one to write. He didn't get a lot of airtime in this book, but he's a pretty big component of the entire story.
But I think it works better in that way to have, because like I said, that those two characters together, like they just feel like they're just so mysterious even after getting as far in the book as you have.
Mhm.
But that works for that character because you're like, well, I just want to see more of this guy, and I imagine, you know, things go, you will. And I don't know, it's the mystery, you know, with a character like that, especially with them being as like devious and kind of unpredictable as they are. And so yeah, I think it was a good balance bringing that character in, because when that character first shows up and you kind of get more of him, you're like, oh, is this too much? Like, we've already got the twins, we've already got Myra, we've already got all this stuff going on, but then you just sprinkle them in at like just really opportune points. Like there's an instance with Kai and Inkor where we haven't heard from them in a while, and they just show up out of nowhere and just stuff happens. And I think that's probably one of my favorite sequences in the book, just because of how unsettling and unexpected it was to happen.
Yeah,
So, well done.
appreciate it.
Good job too, Higgins.
Thanks, man. I'm gonna say, you want to do our review?
Yeah, I think we're in a like we don't want to go into everything. Obviously,
Yeah.
you need to read the book.
Yeah, guys, buy the book, read the book.
Oh, buy the book. Yeah, then read the book.
Buy
That's
the book,
good.
then read the book.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. I like that. People should
Maybe
do that more
buy
often.
maybe buy it online and in person. That way, in case you're not near your book, you can read it on your phone.
Maybe you find it in your local Barnes and Noble. You read all of it that day because you're like, Mom dropped me off. I got nothing to do. But then,
You still gotta buy it because
Well, you
that's stealing.
well, no, you don't buy that. You just
No.
leave like $1 in there, you know, like as a tip.
Oh, for the next
then
person.
Michael comes in the bookstore as he does every weekend, and
Oh
then
my
he
God.
checks it.
Yeah.
No, I enjoy, telling stories overall, but support helps. Everything that I don't, not just purchasing the books, but one of the things that I encourage is reviews like this.
Leave a review on barnesandnoble.com.
Yeah, so
I'm not gonna say that I did it, but wink, wink, nod, nod. There's a review on barnesandnoble.com now.
Even if it's bad, it's still constructive criticism.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like I enjoy any type of support. It's one of those things where I put it out to the world for enjoyment, not really for any sort of benefit. So, if you want to buy the book, great, read it.
Michael already did it. It's right
yeah,
here.
if you want to borrow the book from somebody, great.
This
leave a
guy.
review. So
If you want to borrow the book from somebody, screw you and buy
No.
the damn book.
oh my god,
Just buy the damn book, guys. If you give him money, he'll give us more money.
I might have to hire you as a salesman, but
Yeah.
You seem very sparingly.
I'm only good in quick doses. So I just thought about the fact that like you wrote the book, so if you gave a review of your own book, you'd kind of sound like an ass. So we're gonna give a review of your book as we do,
Because
and
we
I
have
want
no shame.
and then I want you to give us a review about how we asked you about your book, because I feel like that's all right. I feel like that'd be good. That way we get both of our egos, hoisted up,
All right,
Why'd you point at your penis when you said that?
because that's how down it was
That's your
when
ego.
I
Well, you said it when you said ego, so I was just,
yeah. The man, the myth, the ego.
oh my god.
All right, well, what's your review for this book, Higgins?
Ooh, that's a good question. Maybe I should have thought of that. Like 7 fireballs coming towards a bad dude.
It's good.
Out of like, I don't know, 8 fireballs, maybe 8.5 fireballs.
7 out of 8.5 fireballs.
I didn't really think about the number. It was a good book, guys. Like I really enjoyed myself the whole time.
I did as well. For that reason, my review, try and top that somehow. I don't know how, but I think I'll take a certain sword and drive it through the heart of a certain dragon-like creature. If you want to know what I'm talking about, you read this book, you find out.
I bet they really want to read this god dang book.
Well, thing is, they can.
Now they do.
Now they
Yeah.
can.
They can order it through Michael's site, which is in the link of this podcast
0-0-8studios.com in case you can't read.
Yeah, and if you can't read, that's fine. You look. I'll put a link right there. You're like, oh, that's a different color than the rest of the text. What's that? Click on it. Takes you to Michael's site. you buy the book right there.
Buy the book
Have it
anyways.
shipped.
Maybe you'll learn how to read afterwards.
Exactly. If not, it's got pictures in it. It's
Yeah.
fine. You get all the context you need. All good reviews. And what do you want him to review exactly?
I wanted him to review us reviewing him.
Well, Higgins, he already reviewed us. We haven't actually mentioned this. I'll just give a quick little like shouts out to us from you. You mentioned us in your book,
Yeah, yeah.
and I didn't know that until I started reading it. Higgins looks like he just realized it.
No, I did read it, but it was like at the beginning of when I read it because I started this book like, I don't know, close to a month ago. Like, I know, guys, shocking, but I finished it yesterday.
Yeah. Well, either way, like big thank you for that.
no,
yeah,
no worries.
big shouts out.
Yeah.
So it's part of the acknowledgments. As far as the review goes, one surprising because I expected the questions, not the thorough analysis, and I think you guys have nailed it. Far more than anybody else that I've talked to, obviously,
kiss.
except Ashley, since she's part of the
Yeah,
creating part. But
Definitely more than your wife because she's probably still on page 5.
oh my god,
Maybe 10.
I'm not gonna bury my myself in that. So
I'm just kidding. We love you, Aaron.
So yeah, no, I appreciate the analysis there. I think you guys got the characters down to a T. I will say that I hope you enjoyed the book enough to continue the series because the second one is in progress, and there's a lot more than just these characters working. If you guys remember, there's a map in the
Can't
front.
wait to meet Craig.
Yeah. There's no Craig and Craig, but there's a map. Yeah, there's a map. I might put that in there. Honestly, there's a map at the front, and each of those cities, each of those places has an impact in the story. So, there's a lot more to come, and I really
There's mysterious people up in the north that I read about a couple times that I'm interested to hear about.
yeah. No, I really do appreciate it, and if I had to give a rating, I'm probably 3 mics out of 3 mics.
That's how many mics we have here.
Guys,
Wow.
a perfect score.
Excellent.
Yeah.
What are you guys doing not telling other people to listen to us? Is all I have to say.
Very
So-
good. Well, congratulations to you on writing this and coming out with it where people can pick it up and read it. And
Yeah.
congratulations to Ashley as well. Really good work on both your parts. I'm looking forward to the second book, which is something I haven't said about a book with just words in a really long time. So,
Yeah, I'm counting down the days. I was itching to hear more about these people.
well, I'll tell you a little bit more about him right now because, as we mentioned earlier, Michael already has a synopsis for the next book in his Eternal Crown. Is it a trilogy planned?
I don't know
More
if
than
it's a
one?
trilogy.
Oh, it could be more than
could
trilogy.
Could
be
be a
more.
quadrilogy.
Oh, it's at least going to be 2
Or a
books.
quintology.
It's at least going to be 2, yeah,
It's
for
at least
sure.
gonna be 2. So,
No,
in-
but I don't know if I'm going to stop at 3.
okay, good.
Or an
good.
octology. That's 8, folks.
That might be a bit much, but yeah, no, I got you.
He's doing at least 8 of them, guys. I'm expecting 9.
Comes out with all 8 in like a nice box set, and then you put them together, it makes an octagon. But like individually, they're horrible to
And
read.
then I don't know how you say Cimmerillion in this universe, but I expect that too.
I think you just said it.
In this universe, Cimmerillion?
Oh.
It's Lord of the Rings stuff. Andy would know.
He would.
Hey, Andy.
Because I'm going to tell you something you're going to need to know, and that's the next book is called The Eternal Crown: Trials of the Clergy. And in this book, Myra and Korra set off in an attempt to heal a broken Ezra. Little do they know that their journey is all part of a sinister plot. Will Myra's trials prepare for what comes next? Will Korra succeed where his father failed? And what of Kira? Keep an eye out for this next title. Something
Well,
big is coming.
Snoop,
And I'm not talking about
what are the
Higgins'
answers?
ego.
What are the answers to those questions?
I don't know. It's all in the book. But yeah, look forward to that. I think as far as right now, what is that on track to? What do you hope to get that one out? I don't know. I know you don't want to like commit because things happen, obviously. And
There's a countdown. There's multiple countdown timers on my site for the projects, and those projects or those timers are supposed to show publishing dates. So that's including writing, including editing and illustration. My hope is to get it out. I
It's
think
like just shy of a year, right?
it's just shy of a year because I still got my day job and I'm a family man now. So, but
we can fix that.
no, please don't.
I mean, we could babysit
Oh, okay, yeah,
Jeez.
yeah.
this guy.
So I think the timers right now is at 250, 251, something like that days.
Okay.
And then the next one after that, which is called the Icarus Project, is in the 300s, and then the other book, which is called Providence, is in the 500s.
Excellent.
I think.
So a book about the sun and a book about Rhode Island. I'm kind of excited.
What?
Isn't Providence the capital of Rhode Island?
You may be, yeah, I think you're right, but I don't think that was the intention. Providence, an act of God. So yeah,
In
Hey,
Rhode
man.
Island.
No,
In Rhode Island,
in
yes,
Rhode
no.
Island.
But yeah, so I think that's where it's at. And then as far as the actual story, I'm hoping to get it. I didn't really follow the traditional format of intro, climax, end for this book, but I'm hoping to follow it with intro, climax, end in the actual books. If
Okay.
you will. So
Yeah, he actually did end, intro, climax on this one, guys.
You have to wipe that
yeah,
up
something
later.
like that. So I mean, it's just I don't know. It's debut stuff, but it's also me trying something new, see if it works. And from what I hear, not just from y'all, but from other people that have read it, it seemed to work pretty well. So I'm pretty happy with it.
Excellent. You should be.
Yeah.
Everyone should be happy because we read it and we talked about it, and that's
We read
great.
it. And like a relatively small amount of time, because I'll tell you right now, folks, I did not touch this book before we released our last podcast. So
Which is maybe a month ago.
less than a month ago
Yeah,
at this rate.
Exactly.
Good job.
And it'll probably be a month in between this and our next podcast, I would assume. Which I've got a book for that.
Yeah, you want to
Is that
tell them what it is?
I can make sure we've wrapped up everything. Obviously, Michael, he has his things in the works that we just talked about. If any of that changes or is updated, you and I will talk about it on this podcast
Yeah,
together at the same time.
yeah.
So we're both looking forward to that, and you should be too, person who's listening. Now, as far as what we're gonna do next month, I think we'll cut the segment that we normally do after. a
Oh
book
yeah, I was
review
gonna say no, no reading for squares.
today.
Yeah.
Sad tear.
That's sad.
That's fine. I've got.
That was
stuff-
pretty good though, right?
That was good. Yeah, that was good. Tell him it was good.
It was good.
Good. All right.
Now you guys, I'll wait.
But I
Now you have to leave a review saying good job.
leave a review for Michael's book and all the places you can do it. Buy the book, read the book, listen to this if you haven't already. I assume you have. Listen to it again.
Listen to the 37 prior ones.
Exactly. Come back for the 39th one. Is that right? 39th one.
39th one's the
Episode
next one.
39. I picked a book. Higgins, it's ridiculous the amount of Spider-Man we haven't read on this podcast.
Yeah,
So-
we read
I think we've read 0 at this point.
Zero Spider-Man.
0 Spider-Man. So I want to make up for that in a big way, and that's why we're gonna read the entirety of Spider-Man Life Story and talk about that next month.
Spider-Man's life story?
Mhm.
That's probably pretty long, right?
No. So it's I don't know. It's maybe 7-8 issues basically.
Oh, that's doable.
But
Much shorter than a 250-page book.
that's not like a jab at you. That's a good link for that book, by the way. Just quickly saying that. Yeah, Spider-Man Life Story is going to be a good one, I think, because it's basically each issue is a different decade in Spider-Man's history, and he ages in real time, and the events that happen in each issue are the events that happened in the comics in that decade. So, Gwen Stacy being killed, that's going to be pretty early on because that happened
What?
in the 60s. You saw it, the Andrew Garfield thing. He dropped her. It was a whoop. He
Mhm.
whoopsed it.
I saw the Legos one where they did it too.
Yeah, exactly. But so it's going to be like that. It's going to go through all the greatest hits of Spider-Man in his history. You're going to see the black suit. You're going to see him fight a Green Goblin. You're going to see him fight a Doc Ock. You're going to see Doc Ock marry Aunt May. But it's spread over a lifetime of this
What?
particular.
God, that one's one that I have not heard.
Oh yeah, that
Wait,
actually-
what?
that's a real thing. But yeah, and it's fun because it doesn't matter. It does all these events, but it does it in its own contained history in this book. It's really good. I've already read it, but I want to read it and talk about it. So
Hey man, that sounds fine by me.
good stuff. Good stuff.
I'll
Everyone
pick
read
the book
that.
next month. Sorry.
You'll pick a book eventually.
Well, the month after this next month.
Higgins, you picked Ghost World, and I'm still just reeling out after that one. I wasn't emotionally handled to talk about that.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I mean, I just got books on my shelf
Yeah.
that I haven't even read not one time. So
It's all right. We'll
they're
read 'em.
itching to be recorded about.
Good. Hold on to those,
I will
and we'll talk about those.
on my bookshelf.
We'll talk about your bookshelf later, and we're gonna let Michael go. We'll let everyone else go, and we'll see you guys next month. Before I let you go, Higgins is gonna say things really quickly, and then we'll be done.
Yeah, I'm gonna clean up shop, everybody. You can talk to us at our respective social medias. You can find me at Mike Higgins 93 at the Twitter and JStorm93 on Instagram, and you can find Snoop at both of those things at Snoop_Lynch. And you can find Michael at some things if he wants to be found, besides his website.
Well, yeah, you can find me on the website 0-0-8 Studios, or you can shoot me a quick email at michael.lopez@0-0-8studios.com.
Just so dang easy.
Yep.
And you can shoot us an email. You can just ask us anything, guys. You can ask us what underwear we're wearing at the time. I'll tell you. I have no shame. But really, we want you to talk to us about comic books and Michael's book or anything that you want us to look at. Maybe we talk about it in our other segment. Like, honestly, just talk to us about anything. You can find it at comicsologyclub@gmail.com. And yeah, shoot us an email, do all that things.
Mm-hmm.
And then leave reviews at all of the places you can. I think iTunes is like the main one. And ratings and reviews there. And you can leave a rating on Spotify now. So do that if you listen to us there.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is all of the things. We talked about Michael's site enough. He's done now. He gets no more. Thank you to Don Julio Reposado Tequila for sponsoring this episode. It was a real treat. And with that, I'll say,
you want me to say something first, and then Michael?
Yeah, I was just doing a long pause until you said your thing, so I
Okay,
could think about my thing.
Well, Higgins, let me say to you and Michael, thank you both for being here. Michael more so because he's normally not here, so that's good. But thank you, Higgins, not to take away from that. I'll say cheers, guys, to everyone else because that's what I say. Michael, say something.
Hi, Mom.
It's good. We didn't mention her. I'm glad we fit that in.
And I'll say this sun has risen, but this podcast is now set.